Trigonometry is math in my head that I can't keep out. Got me solving like I'm a math every day. It's like the strings class stuck on replay.
Hey guys, let's go over 1.58 solving by completing the square with imaginary solutions. Let's go ahead and do this with me. I've got 3x squared minus 72x plus 465 equals 0. What we've been doing so far is trying to solve this by factoring. And you recognize that this does not solve by factoring, so we have to use a method called completing the square. Now, we want to have an a value equal to 1. So to do that, I'm going to divide this whole expression by 3. And here you'll get x squared minus 3 goes into 7 twice, 1, 12, 3 goes into 12 4 times. 3 goes into 4 once, 3 goes into 16 5 times, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. I'm going to subtract the c value, and now you have x squared minus 24x equals negative 155. Okay, now we're going to use our completing the square formula. Completing the square formula is CTS. So that's b over 2 squared. The nice thing here is we have an even number. So that becomes 12 squared and 144. So our c is going to equal 144. Remember, you're doing that to both sides of the equation, so this is called addition property of equality. Okay, here on the left side of the O line, we're going to go ahead and use our X box method of factoring. So, our A, B, C, 144, B value is negative 24. Remember that number you can choose from here. 12 times 12 is 144, or 12 plus 12 equals negative 24. Oh, that means these both have to be negative. And we are splitting this term, so that'll become negative 12x. Negative 12x minus 12x is negative 24x. We are splitting the b term. That is x squared and c value of 144. Factor that becomes x, negative 12, x, and negative 12. So we get x minus 12, x minus 12, or we write that as x minus 12 squared. And that will equal a negative 11. Let's go ahead and take the square root now of each side. These cancel. X minus 12 equals, the square root of 11 is square root of negative 1 times square root of 11. Don't forget our plus or minus. And we'll add 12 to the left side here, to the left of the red. X equals 12 plus or minus. Remember, what do pirates say? I. So square root of negative 1 is I, so I'm going to write square root of 11 I like this. And you can't do anything about that. So here is our solution. Alright, so we did this one. For questions 38 to 43, complete 3, so skip 3 problems. Let's go over number 38. Okay, number 38 is nice because don't have to divide by an a value. So this is not factorable, right? There's no two numbers that multiply to be 12 but add to be negative 4. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. And this lets us complete the square. So CTS, completing the square, is a formula of b over 2 squared. Our b value here is negative 4. Negative 2 squared is 4. And if I factor the left side, a times c is 4, my b value is negative 4, my two numbers are going to be negative 2 and negative 2. We're going to split these right here. You have x squared and 4. Greatest common factor is x, negative 2. Remember, these are always going to be the same because you need a perfect squared trinomial. What's a perfect squared trinomial? It's just when these binomials I'm writing right here are the same, you get x minus 2 squared, and that becomes negative 8. Okay, now my expression on the left-hand side is isolated. We can take the square root. X minus 2 equals square root of negative 8 is going to be negative 1 times 4 times 2. Don't forget our plus or minus here. This one's going to become I. That becomes 2. And that becomes the radical 2. And then we just add 2 here. That goes to the left. Okay, so let's double check our answer here. And that is our correct answer. Number 39. Okay, I want to get rid of that 2, so I'm going to divide by 2 on all of these. This will become x squared minus 3 halves x plus 5 halves. Whoops, divided by that side on 2, which is 0. Move this over. And we'll complete the square. B value is negative 3 halves. So this becomes negative 3 halves divided by 2. This will turn into multiplication and take the reciprocal. Multiply across, negative 3/4. And square each of the numbers. Negative times negative is positive, so 9 over 16 would be our answer. Goes on each side of our equation. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and factor. So A, B, and C. A times C is 9 over 16. My B value is negative 3 halves. Remember that number is right there. Negative 3/4 times negative 3/4 is positive 9/16. Negative 3/4 minus 3/4 will be negative 6 over 4, which is negative 3 halves. Splitting this one, so go ahead and have an x. Alright, so here, 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 and here. Greatest common factor is x, negative 3/4, x, and negative 3/4. So I have two of those, so I can do x minus 3/4 squared equals, let's multiply that by 8, so negative 40 plus 9 over 16. So it becomes negative 31 over 16. Okay. Let's go ahead and do the square root. This is going to be square root of negative 1, square root of 31 over the square root of 16. So that'll become the I. This will become 4. And if you add 3/4 to both sides, it goes here on the left. And you can put that together. So 3 plus or minus I square root of 31 over 4, because they both have a denominator of 4. Let's double box that so you don't get confused with the C value. Number 40. Let's divide by 2. X squared plus 5 halves x plus 7 halves. Subtract the 7 halves. And now we're going to complete the square. B value is 5 halves. And let's turn it horizontally. So 5 halves divided by 2. 5 halves times 1/2. So 5/4. And then 5/4 squared is 25 over 16. That's going to go to both sides. And now we're going to factor. A, B, and C. A times C. B value, 5 halves. That number is going to be 5/4. 5/4 times 5/4 is 25 over 16. And 5/4 plus 5/4 is 10 over 4, which reduces to 5 halves. And then X. Fill out our box. X, 5/4, X, and 5/4. So saving image. Multiplied by 8, so that would become negative 56 plus 25 over 16. You have 2 of these. That'll give you negative 61 over 16. No, not negative 61, negative 31. Take the square root. X plus 5/4 equals plus or minus square root of negative 1 times square root of 31 over square root of 16. Let's do it one time. Also subtract negative 5/4, and we got simplify all this stuff. Negative 5/4. That's I radical 31 all over 4. And then you can write one clean answer. X equals negative 5 plus or minus I radical 31 all over 4. Number 41. Good thing is we don't have to divide by anything. So we'll just subtract 3. Let's complete the square. B over 2 squared. Negative 2 over 2 squared. Negative 1 squared, which means it is 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and factor the left side. A, B, C. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, and negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 2. Those always go on the bottom left, top right. And I need this one. And this one. And take the square root. So this will become x equals 1 plus or minus I radical 2. The reason why they don't put the I on the left side is it's easy to put that I back underneath the radical. And that's your answer for number 41. Let's go on to number 42 here. Whoa, what do we do here? What do we do here? Okay, so you could do, I'm going to talk a couple things here. You could do something like this. But just recognize that, you know, another way of seeing it is it's kind of like this. X minus 0 squared equals negative 24. And you would just take the square root of both sides. But it looks so simple, but you could just simply take the square root of both sides. You're going to left with x equals plus or minus let's see, -1, 4, and 6, right? -1 times 4 times 6 is -24, so that'll become 2I radical 6. Whoop whoop! And number 43. Okay, you can't factor this, right? Saving image. Come on, iPad. Does that make sense? It's A times C is 4 and B is -2, so there's no two numbers that multiply to be 4 and add to be -2. So we're going to move this over. We're going to do a CTS. What's our B value? -2. -1 squared, which is 1. So over here, A, B, C. B value is -2. My two numbers are -1. -1 times -1 equals +1. -1 minus 1 equals -2. That goes to top left, bottom right. Greatest common factor. Let's take the square root. Those cancel. You're left with plus or minus. -1 times radical 3. So that becomes I and radical 3. And when you add 1, that goes right here. Guess I don't need this part. And that's our answer right here. X equals 1 plus or minus I radical 3. And that's how you complete 1.58. We'll see you. Bye.
And today's message is thou shalt honor the correct order of operations. Honoring the correct order of operations shall make your life in math easier and less complicated. Always make sure to honor the correct order of operations.